Welcome. It's time for our very first big story. Judith joins me in a minute. Let's turn our spotlight to what might be one of the most consequential appointments ahead of 2027 general elections. Just only last week, President Bola Tinubu formally nominated Professor Joash Ojo Amupitan as the new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, a decision unanimously approved by the National Council of State. Amupitan is a law professor from the University of Jos and a senior advocate of Nigeria, steps in to replace Professor Mahmood Yakubu, whose two-term ended in October 2025. In the interim, May Agbomoche Mbu served as acting chairman until Amupitan's nomination. Now, this is a momentous shift with high expectations, criticisms, and questions from stakeholders across Nigeria's political landscape. What does Amupitan's appointment portend for the credibility of our elections, the confidence of Nigerians, and the balance of political power in 2027? Well, to help us unpack this, joining now is Dr. Michael Abu, publisher of the Nigerian Post. Dr. Abu, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So sorry we had to pull you out of church. But Dr. Abu, do let us know. Let's begin. In your view, how significant is the timing of Amupitan's appointment, especially as we're so close to 2027 elections?
Yeah, thank you very much. Looking at the appointment of Professor Amupitan, SAN, I think it's only significant that after the tenure of Mahmood, somebody has to step in. It's a constitutional provision. So the appointment has been made. It is significant in the sense that another academic is taking over from the one who has just left. We have seen this trajectory of having to bring professors to head INEC. One would have expected that it would have impacted on the credibility of election because of the background from which they were coming from. And after Mahmood, it's still a tale of woes for our electoral processes. We are expecting that this appointment that has been done would help shape the electoral process of Nigeria. Amupitan is one person who has been part of electoral reform in the country and even outside the country. He has had to do a lot of work on legal jurisprudence as it has to do with election matters. He has been in court several times defending politicians. And we are thinking that he's coming in this time to help reform the electoral system in such a way that at the end of the 2027 elections, Nigerians will say we are home and dry. But let us make it clear that his appointment for President Bola Tinubu is a master stroke. A lot of people, particularly those from the northern extractions, have insisted that the next INEC chairman must come from the north. And if you look at who Professor Amupitan is, he is also a northerner from Kogi State. Of course, this time he is of the Yoruba speaking from Kogi State. He is also a Christian from Kogi State. And so there has been hues and cry by certain sections of Nigeria, particularly the north, looking at the appointment as one that does not meet their expectations. But if care is not taken, if the northerners does not celebrate this appointment, it is going to impact negatively on our unity as northerners. The likes of the Tafawa Balewa, the likes of the Sadaunans, we have always preached the one north. And one begins to wonder why a man who is from Kogi State, who is a northerner, who has always voted in support of the northern interests, will now be seen as not one of their own. So they need to be careful about it. They need to tread softly. The ACF, you will recall, at reception, we had the chairman of the ACF, the person of late Sunday Awoniyi. Late Sunday Awoniyi is a Christian from Kogi State who presided over the Arewa Consultative Forum, a body that oversees activities of the Northerners. And so if several years ago, we found it convenient to allow a seat as years after their children and those who have come ahead of them will now begin to see somebody from Kogi State not as one of them. Well, it is so sad. So it is on that note that all others who see Amupitan as one of their own. What is more important? Whoever comes in to become the INEC chairman, one is expected that it does not give any advantage. You will recall that Jega was there. He couldn't do anything to save the Jonathan. You will also recall that there have been several northern INEC chairmen when late Muhammadu Buhari contested the election, but the elections conducted, he never made a headway because the INEC chairmen were from the north. And that's the more reason why we're thinking that all that is needed is the institutions have to be made strong. Once the institutions are made strong, the processes will go free and fair without anyone having to have any reason to cry foul at the end of the process.
Now, Dr. Abu, there is another matter that I would like to ask here, and it is that for every time that we bring up the subject of Professor Amupitan, there is always consideration given to his language, consideration given to his region, consideration given to his political leaning, which many say is apolitical, and consideration given to, well, the many, you've mentioned quite a few. Why is it important to consider these things as he's entering this role as INEC chairman? What dynamics could they bring in the future?
Come again.
So I just asked about the different details that you gave, the factors that you gave regarding his religion, his language, the region he hails from. Why is it an important consideration as he steps in as INEC chairman?
You are asking of the significance of his stepping in as INEC chairman? What is important for Nigeria? Is that what you're saying? If I hear you clearly.
Significance of the different nuances that make up Professor Amupitan, his language, the state he comes from, his religion. Why are these important considerations, and what effect would it have on his role?
Well, I just said, I must say that it's not going to have any effect whatsoever. Language, ethnicity, your geographical location, all of these do not have any significance on the electoral process. Yes, a lot of people will say the president is a Yoruba man, and then Amupitan is also a Yoruba man. But that will not translate into electoral values. The election is going to be won and lost on the basis of campaign policies, how the people perceive your administration, what you are bringing to the table. I mean, today, if you go to the Nigerian market, you do not buy fuel and other staple foodstuffs on the basis of where you come from. We are using the same currency, and of course, everybody is feeling the heat. And so if Amupitan now sits as INEC chairman and the institutions are strengthened, we are craving for an electoral reform that will allow that there will be credibility and fairness in the process. That will not have anything to do with the election itself. One is really thinking that if you know Professor Amupitan is coming into this office with integrity, is coming into this office with competence, is coming into this office with a whole lot of experience that will be expected to be brought to bear to ensure that we have a credible election. Where he comes from is immaterial. Where he comes from in terms of his religion has got nothing to do with the electoral process. I want Nigerians to begin to clamor for a reform that will see a one-man, one-vote, a reform that will see that the legal issues that are always affecting the activities of INEC are being strengthened, and then we have a direction. I'm expecting that Nigerians should begin to clamor for a real-time release of results where there will not be logistic issues. One problem that he needs to critically handle as he comes in is the issues of logistics. You can't imagine election that is beginning at a particular time in Lagos. It's not yet started in Maiduguri. We are told that materials have not reached. We are told that there are compromises in the material. These are the things that one will expect that when Amupitan now fully takes over as INEC chairman, they will put in place measures, having seen all of these gaps, and see how we can close up on them.
So Dr. Abu, now,
yeah.
Dr. Abu, very interesting that you should say that, because the former, the ex-INEC chairman actually only just said yesterday, he mentioned that tech did improve the polls. This is on the front page of the Punch newspaper, that technology has improved Nigerian polls, but that it cannot eliminate electoral flaws. Now, noting that the ex-chairman is the one saying this, critics have also raised concerns regarding continuity from that chairman to this new chairman, Amupitan. So given the reputation and track record of Mahmood Yakubu, do you think that Amupitan inherits a credible institution as he steps in as INEC chairman?
The institutions have always been there. They are credible. What we have actually witnessed has always been that human compromise. Nigerians, particularly the INEC officials working in consonance with the politicians, are the ones that have compromised the technology. I mean, after several years of our electoral process, it is unfortunate that so much has been introduced using technology to make our election very seamless. But I want you to understand that they have always failed to produce the desired result because the politicians don't want it to work. I can't imagine a situation where we had all the assurances during the 2022 election that as soon as results were counted, they will be uploaded on the IRED. Only for a few hours after, when certain things began to show its ugly head, we were told that there were some glitches. And of course, today you know what the stories are. So it was not as if the technologies are not performing or they are not working, but do we really want them to work? We must come with a mindset to have the right thing that needs to be done. If you bring an angel in place of Professor Amupitan as INEC chairman, I can still tell you that if Nigerians who are overseeing the election and the electoral processes do not want it to work, we will not get the desired result. Do we want it to work? It's a collective responsibility. Nigerians have always piled out in their numbers, go to the polls, have their choices in their mind. But the outcome of the result is not about technology, it's about human manipulation. Somebody just sits down somewhere, writes the result, and tells you that there were glitches in the technological process. And so they are now using the manual system. And on the basis of that, they are giving you a result that is not in tandem with the wishes and aspirations of the people. And so, Amupitan has been a God-fearing person. He's been somebody who has been literally given to fairness. He has always been a very transparent person. Having worked with him closely as a student, as a lecturer in the university, I have seen him as one of the Pan-African and Pan-Nigerians that we need in this time of our electoral reform. By the desperation of the politician, don't forget that he was nominated by somebody, he was appointed by somebody, and the tendency that he might want to work in line with those who nominated and appointed him may always be there. But we are hoping that knowing who he is, he should be able to look at the powers and the authorities that be and say, look, the right thing must be done. Nigeria needs to write history after the 2027 election. We have failed all this while. We have gotten it wrong all this while. We have the last chance in 2027. Quite a number of Nigerians will not even come out to vote in the next electoral process. But if he is able to come with assurances, if he's able to come with a covenant that he's entering into the people, that this time Nigerians will get value for money, one will expect that Nigerians will have a change of mind and go out and vote in the next 2027 election.
Dr. Abu, finally, let me ask, you just mentioned that you have worked with this gentleman yourself. You have given, during the week you did tell that he's a very upstanding person. So I'm wondering, from your vantage point, what are the first acts that Professor Amupitan must do to be able to establish his credibility as INEC chairman?
One of the things he must do, first, he must bring his courage to bear. He must bring his courage to bear. Number of offers and compromises that will be made to ensure that the 2027 election is compromised or made credible. There is a lot of desperation. Nigerians are tired. They're already having a bunch of anger in their mind, waiting to exercise it in the 2027 election. But of course, that will only be made possible if the electoral process and electoral umpire come with courage. They will be desperate, no doubt about it. They will want to use Amupitan as a pawn. Nobody steps in there with credibility and integrity like the qualities that Amupitan has and never comes out unscattered. So it will be a different ballgame if he goes in there and comes out unscattered. The way I'm thinking that, having worked closely with him, not because he's a clergyman, no, but he has been very religious, not because he was looking forward to a day like this, but he has built bridges in the north and in the south. He has been able to make friends all across Nigeria. He's been part of electoral reforms in Nigeria and outside. I think he was confident that he's working towards a day like this, that one day he will be made the INEC chairman so that he can bring in all of those experiences to bear. All that he needs, technology are there. You have the human resources. You have the financial resources. The amount of money that is being spent in organizing the Nigerian election is so stupendous that you have no reason to pay. All that is needed is for you to have the mindset that I'm coming in with courage, the right thing must be done, irrespective of whose house is called. Think about the over 200 million Nigerians. Think about the vulnerable. Think about those who want good governance. Think about those who want to elect leaders of their choice. Let those be the decision that should be uppermost in his mind as he settles down to begin the process towards having an electoral reform and a credible election in 2027. We must begin to see visibly a reform that needs to be carried out. The processes have not started. It can be slow. And like I always say, if by February 2026, those processes are not completed and put in place, it is as good as saying we are still remaining in the same old place where we are. Because with the process we have now, with the kind of structures we have now, I don't think we might have a credible election if these gaps that we have noticed over time are not corrected.
Dr. Michael Abu, publisher of the Nigerian Post, want to say thank you very much, sir, for giving us these few minutes to discuss this very important conversation here about the appointment of the new INEC chairman, Professor Joash Amupitan. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us this morning. Thank you indeed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you more. Thank you indeed.